It was 2001, and baby made 4. I had just given birth to my second child. She had the most beautiful, big brown eyes. They were her daddy's eyes. And a head full of curly hair, just like her older brother. And she was so tiny, 6 pounds, 9 ounces. The most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. We called her Ladybug. It was a beautiful, wonderful time in our family. My son was so excited about baby sister, and my husband had his girl. It was difficult for me, however, to find joy in this new moment. I struggled a moment. I felt overwhelmed. I had a kindergartner and a newborn. It was a lot. And after a few weeks, I remember calling my doctor and I said, something's wrong. I'm not happy. Shouldn't I be overjoyed? Shouldn't I be screaming from the rooftops how happy I am? And she says, not necessarily. I think what you might have is baby blues. But don't worry, it will pass and you'll feel better. Weeks later, after feeling relieved, things got worse. I don't know if you've ever heard of colic. My daughter developed colic. It's a very traumatic situation. 7 or 8 hours of the day, she was great. And then at 6 o'clock, between 6 and 8, every day, she would cry. There was this impulse that was triggering her to be uncomfortable and inconsolable. And for 2 hours, she would cry, and then she'd cry. And this went on for a couple of weeks. And then I began to cry with her every day from 6 to 8. My saving grace was my husband. He'd come home from a long day of work. He'd place Ladybug in her car seat, and he'd drive her around until he returned with a silent baby. One day in our crying, I called my doctor. I said, I can't do this. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm anxious. I'm overwhelmed. I'm tired, and all I want to do is sleep, and that makes me feel guilty. She says, come in, let's talk about it. So I go to her office, and the moment she walks in the door, I see in her eyes what I know she sees in me. Something's not right. We sit down and we have a nice long conversation. And towards the end of the conversation, she says, in the sweetest bedside manner she could muster, sweetie, I think you're suffering from postpartum depression. I didn't understand what that was. And so I said, what do I do? She offered me medication, and I declined because I said to her, I have a kindergartner and a newborn. I can't take any medication. What else is there? She asked me the most profound question I'd never been asked before, and it was the biggest shift that my life could take in that moment. She said, tell me, what is it that you do to take care of yourself? And I pondered, and I could not answer. She said, I think this is where we need to start. So, like so many of you, I went home and I joined the Y. And every day after dropping our son from at school, my daughter and I would get in the car and we'd go over to the Y. And I chose all kinds of workouts. I ran, I jumped, I swam, I did everything. And over time, I began to feel better. Over time, making myself a priority boosted my confidence. Over time, the feeling of overwhelm and anxiety began to wane. And I realized Ask for what you need. Self-care is not selfish. It feeds you because you cannot give from an empty cup. So as time went on, I recognized that other people need to understand how important self-care is. You need to know that you can make yourself a priority. And so I began to teach women that taking care of yourself is one of the most important gifts that you can give, not just to yourself, but to your family. And as time went on, I began to feel more joy in becoming a mother. I began to feel more joy in giving myself, my time to my family. That began my journey of self-care. In everything that I do, I consider, how am I going to take care of myself first so that I can give at the most optimal level? So in closing, I want to leave you with a couple of takeaways about my journey of postpartum. Trouble doesn't last always. We've learned that this too shall pass. Stay strong, stay connected to your source, and stay in the fight. Self-care is not selfish. We are the only source that we have of giving to ourselves what it is that we need. Make yourself a priority in your life so that you can give of yourself to others. And finally, in all things, give thanks. I believe that every part of our journey is designed divinely to serve us in the next part of our journey. My name is Robin Joiner. It has been my delight to share my story with you. Be well.